This podcast is presented by Regions Bank. You're chasing your goals, and it's up to you how you want to get there. Let Regions Bank coach you with financial tips that fit your everyday grind. Visit regions.com/next-step to learn more. Regions, member FDIC.
Welcome to the Super Bowl edition of the AP Top 25 College Football Podcast. I'm Rob Maaddi, AP Pro Football writer based in Philly. I'm here on Radio Row in Miami hosting daily shows all week. I'm going to get you ready for the San Francisco 49ers, Kansas City Chiefs in a big game on Sunday. Ralph Russo will be back next week and throughout the offseason for the College Football Podcast. We have several guests on this episode. Denver Broncos safety Justin Simmons, former Green Bay Packers wide receiver Greg Jennings, Hall of Fame defensive back Rod Woodson, and former players Solomon Wilcots and Lofa Tatupu will join us. Well, media night is over. Players got to experience that. It's really an annual circus. It's more like a wild music festival. And this year, though, it was a little more subdued one day after the tragic death of Kobe Bryant, his daughter Gianna, and 7 other passengers in that helicopter crash in California, and our sincerest condolences really go out to all the families involved. They kicked off media night at Marlins Park on Monday with a moment of silence that ended with Kobe chants, which it was really cool to see. They gave me goosebumps, and everybody there was really into it. I didn't see a lot of the usual craziness. The quasi-media members who do whatever they can to bring attention to themselves was a little bit calmer this year. There was some of it, but it wasn't just the usual crazy, wild antics. I did have a chance to chat with Chiefs coach Andy Reid. I covered Andy's entire career in Philadelphia, and he took the Eagles to the Super Bowl after the 2004 season with Donovan McNabb and Terrell Owens and T.O. before that whole thing imploded the following season. And they lost to Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, and the Patriots 24-21 in that game. And it's taken Andy now 15 years to get back. And Andy Reid's the 7th coach to lead 2 different teams to the big game. He's got more wins than any coach in NFL history without a Super Bowl title. So this really is Andy's best chance with Patrick Mahomes and his dynamic Chiefs offense. Andy's a much different guy now. He's a lot more outgoing than the guy I covered in Philly when he was stoic. He was almost robotic. I remember he used to start every news conference with injuries, and then he'd give updates, and then he'd turn it over to the media by saying, "Time's yours." And he got a lot of criticism in Philly from fans who just didn't like his personality, although he left Philly as the all-time winningest coach in franchise history. He didn't give much information out in his news conferences, and it was clear. You can ask him. Andy will tell you that talking to the media wasn't his favorite part of the job. But now Andy's on this big stage again, finally 15 years later, and I'm seeing a guy who's laughing, he's cracking jokes, he's playing along with the media, and he's got the floral shirts, the Hawaiian shirts, and just like he always did, he's making fun of his weight, poking fun at himself. Like he's done that before too. But one of those quasi-reporters I mentioned asked him to pick a question out of a helmet, and he did that on media night. And the question said, "What's the name of a reality TV show that one of your players is on?" And Andy knew right away, and the answer was Catching Kelsey, and that's referring to Travis Kelce's show. And then the reporter said, "Hey, can I try out another one?" And Andy said, "No, I'm gonna retire undefeated." So he's enjoying the process far more than he did when he was the Eagles coach. So I asked him about it, and here's what he said.
Yeah, well, I'm older. I've probably seen a little bit more, and you understand how lucky you are to be in this position and to have a great team. I mean, I'm very fortunate to have the guys that I have behind me. So it's very, very honored to be with these guys.
Andy's honored to be here. The Chiefs players love playing for him. They're all talking about how much they want to give him his first Super Bowl ring to help cement his Hall of Fame credentials. Up next, Justin Simmons from the Denver Broncos. And welcome back to the Super Bowl edition of the AP Top 25 College Football Podcast. I am Rob Maaddi. Now I want to welcome to the show Denver Broncos safety Justin Simmons. Justin was an AP second-team All-Pro this season. He had 4 interceptions, 90-plus tackles. Justin, you guys played the Chiefs twice this year, lost both games by a combined score of 53-9. What makes this Chiefs offense so dangerous?
It's really Patrick Mahomes. Obviously they have a great plethora of weapons right on the offensive side of the ball. Williams out of the backfield. Kelsey at the tight end position, Hill, Watkins, Robinson at the wide receiver spots. But it's Mahomes that kind of makes all that work. He's really a special talent, and it's not that first play, their first play out of the huddle that necessarily will beat you. It's what happens when you cover that play as a defense. You successfully cover that play, and then, offensively it breaks down and they play, essentially backyard football. And the receivers just play to get open. And Mahomes has such an unorthodox arm where he can throw it from many different angles that it hurts you. And he's athletic enough to run, and he's athletic enough to run for, first downs, touchdowns, whatever it may be. And so when you add, his running ability on top of his, arm talent, that's what makes their offense so dangerous. And so you play for the big play attack, but they just find so many different ways to kind of dice you up, and it's hard to defend.
Well, in that second game, you had an interception against Patrick, and he only threw 5 picks all season long, so he's not an easy guy to pick.
Yeah.
How do you try to create a turnover against a guy like that? How do you try to play to get a turnover, try to force him to maybe make a mistake and then capitalize on it?
Yeah, well, rightfully so. He's super confident, and not only in his arm, but his receivers around him to kind of make the plays that, he's kind of throwing the football up and saying, my guys are going to make the play. And so a lot of the times it's kind of envisioning the play that he sees happening and going to go make it happen. So that play I got the interception on, it was actually during, film study, kind of in the same position on the field. The Chiefs were playing the 49ers, ironically.
Wow.
They were playing the Chiefs in the Chiefs Stadium. It might have been 2 years ago I saw this. And, Mahomes got flushed out of the pocket. He made the same exact move. He was running left, did a spin move, coming back to his right, and running towards the sideline. And then as he was running towards the sideline, he saw an open window, darted the ball in the back of the end zone and hit, I forget who it was, maybe Watkins or someone like that, for a touchdown in the back of the end zone. And so as that play was breaking down for us, automatically I was thinking, bam, this is going to be the same exact play.
Wow.
And so as I looked back, seeing Tyreek Hill kind of running back there free, I knew he was going to try and dart, a football into the end zone some way or somehow. And that's where I was able to get the interception. But you can see, even with tight coverage, he thinks his guys are going to make the play, and he likes his chances. So
he's got that arm that he can get it through, too. He's not afraid to do that. Now,
exactly.
On the other side, San Francisco is an excellent run offense. As a safety, do you run a risk if you try and cheat up in the box that maybe Jimmy Garoppolo, he's a capable quarterback, he's going to beat you?
Oh, yeah. And that's exactly what the 49ers offense is based off of. Not saying, Jimmy G is a great quarterback, and we've seen that, with his tenure in New England, and obviously now here, being with San Fran not too long, and they're in the Super Bowl. But their run game is really what sets up their passing game. And, when they run the ball so effectively, it causes you as a safety, I got to scoot up and support the run. And then as soon as you do, there's these passing windows where you're a step behind, and that's all it takes in the NFL is a step. And once you're a step behind, a guy like Jimmy's able to hit those windows and find his receivers, and not to mention, the weapons that he has. And so it's going to be a great game. I think it's obviously going to be a little bit more high scoring, but it's going to be a great game.
Well, he only threw 8 passes in the NFC Championship game, so if you're looking at that film, there's a tendency maybe for the secondary, the linebackers, to be like, well, he's not going to throw much here, and like you said, that's where he's dangerous and he can beat you, so you got to be prepared for both sides of it. What advice do you have for the safeties on both teams, because Travis Kelce and George Kittle are beasts at that position, man? What would you tell those guys trying to cover them?
Yeah, no, obviously no easy task, right? We're talking about, 2 of the best, if not the best, tight ends in the game at this moment. And so, especially going up against Kelce, twice a year, no easy task, right? And the thing about, Kelce is he doesn't have, I would say, like a wow factor about him. It's not like he's super fast or, super quick or anything about that, but like he finds ways to get open against anyone, for the most part. And so when you're going up against guys like Kelsey or even Kittle, you got to know where your help is and you got to play to it because they'll find ways to beat you to your leverage. You may get them the first couple reps and they might set you up for a move that'll, all of a sudden hit you for 50 yards and it's a touchdown. So when you're playing that safety spot, man, you just got to play towards your help and play it, consistently throughout the game.
Well, Justin, you're here as a Walter Payton Man of the Year nominee, and that's an incredible honor, a prestigious award to win, and you're a guy who's so active in the community there in Denver, and I saw that in 2019 alone, you volunteered over 3,500 minutes. It's a lot of time, 20 different local organizations. It's a lot of work. It's an incredible work that you're doing. What does it mean to you to be able to get out there in the community and do that service? Yeah,
I think it's a tremendous honor to be, an NFL football player, first and foremost, and so for me, I come from a community where, a professional sports player, athlete is not too common. And, just in the Denver area, I want to go out to their community just like I do at my community and show them, like, I'm nothing special. Right. I didn't do anything special. I may have, an athletic background and I may have some athletic ability, but I tell you what, there's some people more athletic than me that didn't make it to where I am. For X amount of reasons. So I wanted to, make sure I show my face and, really kind of inspire the younger generation. Not only can you make it here and you can make it here, doing some of the things that I did, but on top of that, how important it is to kind of give back and to show, your appreciation to the community that supports you and all the different things that encompasses. And so, it's just, it's exciting for me. Obviously, the award is great in and of itself, but and for all the other 31 guys that are, nominees for their respective teams, they'll tell you the same thing. You do it for so much more than, getting nominated or doing the awards. You're really hoping to change lives, and that's, the biggest reason why you do it.
That's beautiful. Well, Justin Simmons, thank you so much for spending a few minutes with us here on Radio Row.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. God bless.
This podcast is presented by Regions Bank. You're chasing your goals, and it's up to you how you want to get there. Let Regions Bank coach you with financial tips that fit your everyday grind. Visit regions.com/next-step to learn more. Regions, member FDIC.
And welcome back to the Super Bowl edition of the AP Top 25 College Football Podcast. I am Rob Maaddi. Welcome to the show, Hall of Fame defensive back Rod Woodson, former NFL player and longtime broadcaster Solomon Wilcots, and Dr. Scott Sigman. Rod and Solomon played in 4 Super Bowls combined. They have plenty of advice that they can give to the players on both teams. Let me start with you, Rod. This is a hectic week. It's wild. How would you caution players to avoid getting caught up in the hype?
Yeah, well, I think the biggest thing this week is that, you try to make it as much normal as possible on both sides of the ball. But you have more media obligation this week than you do during the regular season. But once it's over and what's said and done, it's going to be football. So, enjoy the moment, enjoy the week. It's going to be a little tiresome because you're going to be asked the same question 10,000 times throughout the week. But on game day, it's the same game you played throughout the whole year.
Solomon, from experience with the Bengals, distractions can ruin a team's chances to win on Sunday. It's obviously not a normal week. How do the players try to keep it as normal as possible?
I would just tell players that, hey, it's not going to be a normal week. There's going to be, as Rod said, a lot more media obligations. There's a lot more energy and a lot more hype surrounding it. Remember, they took a week off. So it's really 2 weeks between the championship game and then going out and playing in the Super Bowl. You're going to walk out there in the pregame. It's longer. The warm-up is longer. The halftime is longer. So, okay, let's deal with that. There is going to be a difference. But you can, I always say you can lose the game between now and kickoff due to distractions, due to poor preparation, due to the inability to focus. But you can only win the game on Sunday. I think we've seen from Super Bowls in the past, if one guy goes rogue and go missing into the night, that can serve as a distraction for your football team. And I was part of a Super Bowl where that happened. And so I think you just have to really be able to embrace that, yes, this is going to be different. It's going to be a change. But once they kick the ball off, that's where it's real football. And you've got to be able to lock in those moments and still be able to go out and perform.
Rod, you played in 3 Super Bowls. You earned a ring with the Ravens when you guys beat the Giants 19 years ago, and you were on the losing end with the Steelers against the Cowboys, and again with the Raiders against the Buccaneers.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for reminding me.
Players get to this point, and they may feel they have to do something extra to win the game, and they press, and that causes them sometimes to make a costly mistake. From your experience, how do you avoid putting too much pressure on yourself?
Well, I don't, you can't press it. You know, it's the same game. And Sally said it. You know, listen, a longer pregame, it's longer halftime, but when the ball, it's still a 60-minute game, and you can't overthink the game. I think that it's a simple game. It's not easy to play at a high level on a consistent basis throughout a long period of time, but you're going to, you know, if you're a 49er player, if you're a Kansas City player, you're going to look at the opposing teams. You're going to see what they like to do. You're going to go out there and you play your best football. You can't get caught up in all the other stuff. I think when you start pressing and start doing somebody else's job, that's when everything goes sideways. And that's when you start seeing blowouts in Super Bowls. But when you start just playing within yourself, let the game come to you, start having that recall within the game, that's when players make plays.
Rod, the Chiefs secondary is among the most penalized in the NFL for holding calls and pass interference penalties. Niners coach Kyle Shanahan he's pretty good at alerting refs what to watch for right before a play. So how does Kansas City adjust to avoid getting calls against them in a game where one of these calls could end up costing them a Super Bowl?
Well, I just think that, you know, first of all, they should play upfield shoulder. If you play upfield shoulder, you don't feel threatened for the deep ball, and then you don't get handsy down the field. But they've gotten better throughout the year. So you got to remember, Steve came in as a defense coordinator. He changed it from a 3-4 to a 4-3. He has a lot of new things of these guys that they didn't do in previous years under Bob Sutton. So I think as the year has gone on for this defense, they have gotten better, you know, with everything they've done on the field. And I think you got to hope that each week they've gotten better, that this will be their best week. This will be their best game of the year. And they won't be so handsy down the field because they got playmakers over in San Francisco side. And if they're not playing their A game, it can be a long day for them.
Guys, I've had a torn ACL playing football. I tore a patella playing baseball. My knees are aching all the time, and I never even played pro sports like you. Rod, you tackled osteoarthritis knee pain with a product called Zilretta. How did that help you?
Well, for me personally, osteoarthritis, you know, I had the treatment for Zilretta 95 days ago. It's been a great relief for me. I'm not a person who went out looking for different ways to decrease my pain in my knees. I just kind of live with it. But once I found out this product and I had the treatment, it's been remarkable. I mean, you know, if you're looking for something to give you some relief, it's been one of those things that on my day-to-day living, just getting up, walking, shopping, exercising, flying in a plane, riding in a car, that relief was there for me. And all my buddies, it was a lot of us, anybody who's been active in their life has knee issues over the course of time. And Zilretta for me has been remarkable, just going hiking in the mountains, that I don't have that same sharp knee pain that I had prior to 95 days ago.
Dr. Scott, how does Zilretta work?
Yeah, sure. So Zilretta is a novel intra-articular injection of cortisone for the knee for osteoarthritis treatment. And so we know that Rod's got a Hall of Fame knee over there, but most of us are just sort of the average guys have osteoarthritis as well. And this has, in my experience, been a very solid treatment for osteoarthritis. The results of my patients are very similar to what Rod has described. The safety profile of Zilretta is very similar to all other drugs in its class. And really, the pivotal study for the FDA showed that patients that had an injection of Zilretta, 70% had zero or mild pain out to 3 months, which is really quite remarkable.
And who is this for? Is it like a guy like me, a weekend warrior, a former college athlete? Who can benefit from it?
Yeah, it really depends on the individual patient. I think that the amount of arthritis that an individual patient has, the activity level, we're really trying to avoid opioids in particular for a chronic condition such as osteoarthritis of the knee. So as a physician, Zilretta is a terrific option for me to be able to offer my patients for osteoarthritis of the knee in particular. So getthez.com. So the great news is that this is available now across the country. Doctors in every major city are doing this. If you go to getthez.com, you can find a doctor in your location that'll be able to offer this treatment for you as well.
Rod Woodson, Solomon Wilcots, Dr. Scott Sigmund, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having
Appreciate
us.
it.
Appreciate
that.
And welcome back to the Super Bowl edition of the AP Top 25 College Football Podcast. I am Rob Maaddi. I want to welcome to the show former NFL wide receiver with the Packers, the Minnesota Vikings, even played a year with the Miami Dolphins right here in South Beach, Greg Jennings. Greg, thank you so much for joining us here on Radio Row. Man, I'm looking at that Super Bowl ring, and it's shiny. And the first thing I want to ask you about is your experience in this big game, because it's different for these guys, especially. There's so many players on the 49ers and the Chiefs going through this for the first time. What was it like for you back in 2010?
You know, for us, it was a lot of us going through what they're going through here this week for the first time as well. And we were going up against a Pittsburgh Steelers team who, if they were going to win this Super Bowl, they were going to be one of the dynasties that we would have been talking about. And we didn't care. We really didn't care. We had such a belief and a confidence in one another, and we were so focused and so comfortable with who we were and our roles on that team. We didn't care who the opponent was. We trusted one another and trusted the process and knew we were going to get it done.
Well, you had a special guy under center in Aaron Rodgers, and that was his only Super Bowl win. But playing with a guy like that, playing with someone like Aaron who's still at it, who's still going strong, and unfortunately he fell a game short for him and the Packers, how much more confidence does it give you guys as wide receivers when you have someone like that throwing a ball to you?
We have all the confidence in the world. That's what makes the Chiefs so scary. They understand that our guy under center can do anything at the drop of a snap. Like on set hut, something special can happen on this play, and it generally is at the hands of Patrick Mahomes to initiate it.
Well, you said the Chiefs scary. Now, we know there's the San Francisco 49ers with Jimmy Garoppolo under center. They're a run-dominant football team, but Jimmy could do some things back there. But when you look at this game and you look at this matchup between these two teams, do you think it's incumbent upon somebody like Patrick Mahomes to a couple special plays that he has to make during this game will be the difference between win or lose? Because we saw San Francisco and Jimmy get here where he threw 8 passes in the NFC Championship game. They may not have to rely on him, but if they do, what's your confidence level in Jimmy, and what do you think Patrick has to do to win this?
Well, my confidence level on Jimmy, it's there. It exists. I just don't get to experience it as much. And what I mean by that is that's just the way this season has gone for the 49ers.
Yeah.
They haven't had to rely on Jimmy Garoppolo's heroics for them to win games because they are such a good team, balanced across the board, offensively, defensively, and special teams, to where his level of play hasn't been the deciding factor. Wherein you look across the ball or across the field at Patrick Mahomes, they will live and die off of what Patrick Mahomes has the ability or inability to do. That he is the reason they are here.
Yeah.
He will be the reason that they win if they win. And he will be the reason that they lose if they lose. And what I mean by I don't mean to put that amount of pressure on him.
Right.
But with Patrick Mahomes, their success have solely come off of his arm and his ability to get the ball to those guys on the perimeter. Similar to us back in 2010, our success came off of Aaron Rodgers' arm. We didn't have a great running game. It was almost non-existent. And we relied on the perimeter guys and Aaron to make it happen, and the defense to get crucial turnovers and make crucial stops. Not to be stifling, but to just get stops when we needed them to. And that's what let us get over the hump. And you look at this 49ers team, They can get stops. They can get turnovers. They can put points on the board. And they can do it the way that they want to do it. That's what makes this 49ers team so scary.
I had Rod Woodson on the show a little bit earlier, and I asked him from a perspective of defensive back. And I want to ask you, as a former wide receiver, the Chiefs' secondary is among the most penalized: defensive holding, defensive pass interference. I asked Rod to explain how they can fix that in a game like this. How could you, as a receiver, take advantage of that?
Well, you take advantage of it by telling your quarterback, just give me a chance. And when you understand a team is heavily penalized in the secondary, you got to take chances. Those 50-50 balls are going to be we'll probably see more of them because they're aware of that. They're aware of they don't play the ball that well in the air. They start getting a little grabby, a little testy. When the ball is in the air, when they feel like they have the potential to get beat deep. When you've been susceptible to that, you tend to start doing things that you shouldn't, which creates and generates penalties. But then they do have that honey badger back there that he's the one person back there that if you do put the ball in the air and he's anywhere around it, he may come down with it. So, again, it's going to be a fun game, but you got to test them.
Absolutely. Well, Greg, since you've retired from the NFL, you're doing some things that kind of interest me because I thought I was in pretty good shape. Then you come up here and I'm like, my goodness, man, this guy. And now you're in the bodybuilding. Tell me about what you're doing after your career in the NFL and what that's been like for you and what your goals are.
Well, it's been a lot of fun. You know, I'm working with Fox Sports and I'm an analyst on their networks. And then my wife actually inspired me. She ran a marathon, and she completed it in her time. She got her little medal and everything, and now she's running another one next month. And I'm like, wait, I got to do something. And so men's physique was something that kind of jumped out to me where I could be fit. I can go to the gym. I can train and look good and become more educated on how to train. Different style of training than what I've ever done. And I feel better than I ever felt in my life with this. And it really, you see me here with my food.
I love that, man. You brought your own food. I got to do that.
Yeah, this is where it starts. It starts for me in the kitchen, prepping, making sure that I'm making sure I'm taking care of my calories and I'm getting the food that I need to get in to help me be successful in the gym.
What's your aspirations? Where do you want to take it? How far do you want to go?
You know, there's 3 levels to this. There's men's physique, classic physique, and then there's bodybuilding. You know, the Mr. Olympia and all that. I don't really have aspirations for the Mr. Olympia. That's too big. That's too bulky. That's like
I hear you there. Yeah.
But classic physique, I think I can take it as far as classic physique, getting a little bit more bulky, but not where it's like. Almost, my wife would classify it as grotesque.
I hear you.
It's too much, babe. That's too much.
I've had these conversations with my wife.
But I want to look normal. I want to look good in a t-shirt, look
good on the beach, man.
Yeah, but I also want to be functional.
You know what else it's about too, man? I tell people this all the time. Like back in my younger days, before I was married and had children, I wanted to look good to attract women. Mm-hmm. Now, as a dad, you saw my daughters, the picture of them. As a dad, I want to stay healthy.
Yes.
So I could walk them down the aisle.
100%.
That's my priority, and I think that's why it's so important to eat right, eat healthy, work out, and get that all in. Greg, an absolute pleasure to have you here with me on Radio Row. Thank you so much, man.
I appreciate it, man.
Appreciate it. And God bless you.
Daughters, man.
Thank you, man.
Absolutely.
Thank
God
you.
bless you, too.
Thank you. Joining me now is former Seattle Seahawks linebacker Lofa Tatupu, who is a 3-time Pro Bowler, man. You've had a lot of success in the NFL, right? But now what you're doing is really important stuff because concussions, and we know the NFL has taken on a greater deal of scrutiny because of concussions. And I want to bring it to you because there was an incident with Seattle, and I covered the Philadelphia Eagles back home, in which Davion Clowney knocked Carson Wentz out of the game with a concussion. Now, Carson took some criticism from some fans, not a lot of fans, but there was a segment of the fan base who thought he should have tried to play through it. Now, I know the extent of that injury that he had as soon as he came, and he was disoriented, and he went to the blue tent. They ruled that he was out of the game. It wasn't even up to him anymore. Whereas maybe back in maybe when you played, you could have – I don't know if you had an opportunity to hide it better than some of today's athletes, but the importance of a player self-reporting, how crucial is that?
That's a tough one for me to answer because I don't think I ever could have done that. And I'm not knocking him as a competitor because I've seen him play through numerous injuries.
Yeah.
But everybody's different when it comes to concussions. And so with that, I think he did the right thing in terms of his longevity. And then if you're out there hurting your team, like you're not doing your job. It's best man for the job, that day, and I fully believe that. And
if you're a quarterback and you can't see the defense, right?
It's a little challenging, right?
How you going to call an audible if you don't remember anything?
Absolutely, he's disoriented. There's no benefit to having him out there, not only for him but for the team either. You don't want him out there. And McCown came in and played admirably, and and he even talked about playing through injury. He tore a hamstring.
Yeah. Yeah. See, you could play through the hamstring, but once the way the NFL has set it up now, once they rule you out on the sideline, you can want to go back in. They take your helmet.
We didn't have a blue tent back then. It was more. They would doctors would come over to you. They would check you out, like hey, where are you? The whole gamut of things. And there was only a couple of those that I couldn't play through, and those ones were the ones that were those are the most alarming, right?
Those are the ones you remember.
You don't know how you got there. You're in your pads, so that's and then you're looking up, you're like, I'm at a football game. Was I playing in this?
Wow.
So
how many would you say you went through in your career?
There's several each year, but I counted. There was probably 5 or 6 times that I was not able to finish the game, and the other, I'd say probably a dozen, probably 15 or so from college to the NFL.
Are you still feeling effects of it?
I was until not to just plug my company.
No, but zoneincbd.com. Yeah. So tell me about you were.
Yeah, I was.
And what happened?
So and I'm talking mind and body now. It was just ravaged by injuries. That's why, it was such a short career. And, limping away from the game, I should say, this has been the agent that has put me back together, mind, body, and spirit. And I feel better now than I did in my Pro Bowl years.
Wow. Now, what has it like? What is the process? What do you do? What do you go through? To be able for the zone in the CBD.
To find us?
Yeah.
You can find us online at zoneincbd.com. But several years after the game, I left the game not feeling like myself, and when I started taking this, it was like an eye-opening experience. Like, what is this? What have I been missing my whole life? And so now just a lot of people are starting to find out about it, but I've been on this journey for 3 years, and 3 years ago I was about 280 pounds. I was coaching, and I would try to work out, and then the inflammation and just the aches and pains would keep coming back, and I was like, hey, it's that chapter of my life's over too, I guess. I just can't, get there mentally and physically anymore. And upon hearing more and more success stories about what CBD does, for the mind and body, I found, a quality product. And in doing so, I want to share it with the masses. It has made me my best me as a family man, as, a businessman, and in everyday life, I've never felt better.
Explain the product to someone who's never heard of it. Like, what?
So we have 2 capsules. 2 products. It's really the same product, just 2 different delivery methods. So the dropper or the tincture, which a lot of companies have, and then we have capsules that you ingest, and 15 milligrams each. And I take about every 5 or 6 hours, I'll re-up and do maybe 15 to 30 milligrams and get back. So zone in is positive psychology flow state. Being in the zone.
Of course.
What we're called here. So and just crushing, the moment at hand, and being, because largely what we're fighting is that stigma still. You say hemp and everybody thinks, oh, it's marijuana, it's weed. And so no, we're fighting it even with the name, calling it zone in, and take advantage and own the moment.
Wow. Well, Lofa, I appreciate your time. Before I get you out of here, when you look at the 2 teams that are playing this coming Sunday, San Francisco 49ers, they got some good linebackers, fast linebackers. You got a lot of speed on the other side with the Kansas City Chiefs. What do you see in this matchup?
I want to know who's going to match up with Kelsey, because that's I think their front 4 has got to get after. The rush has to get there. They can't afford to burn a zone and send, I don't think they can blitz as much as they would probably like, in the past, because Mahomes has shown he's been able to prolong the play, and when you have one less guy in coverage, that's just really going to hurt you. So Tyreek Hill, they got a number of weapons over there. I want to see – this front four, this team was built on that front four and front seven too. Bringing in Quan, over from Tampa, but they drafted those 5 guys in the top 5 picks, top 10 picks over the last several years to build the foundation. And so we'll see, if that pays off in the big game.
Well, you got 2 tight ends, right? You got Kittle and you got Kelsey, right?
You
don't want to forget. Yeah, so as a guy who would have been responsible for covering a tight end coming, did you gear up and even more excitement about facing a guy like that?
Well, yeah, bring out the best in you. And, you rise to the level of your competition. And so, you got your hands full with either of them. A phenomenal route runner in Kelsey, very deceptive with, his hesitation moves. And it's impressive. He's out there like a wide receiver. And then Kittle is just a burner.
Right.
Like, I've seen him catch a ball and go 70, 75.
He's got yak, man.
And no one's catching him. So it's you pick your poison. But I'd probably ask to be matched up against the running backs in this one.
Did you have a favorite guy to match up against?
No, you don't. No. Be careful what you ask for, right?
Yeah,
But in tight ends, battled all of them. Witten, he's still playing.
He's still.
Tony Gonzalez, I guarantee he still could play.
Gates, probably.
Gates.
Wow.
So it was. And they all had their intricacies that made them special, but they all phenomenal pass catchers.
Well, again, it's zoneincbd.com. Lofa, thank you so much, man. Appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
That wraps up our first episode of the Super Bowl edition of the AP Top 25 College Football Podcast. I'm Rob Maaddi, and I'll be back for more daily episodes from Radio Row in Miami.
This podcast is presented by Regions Bank. You're chasing your goals, and it's up to you how you want to get there. Let Regions Bank coach you with financial tips that fit your everyday grind. Visit regions.com/next-step to learn more. Regions, member FDIC.